Ken James and Jason McKittrick. Brought to you by Cryptocurium.
Searchers after horror haunt strange, far places. For them are the catacombs of Ptolemies and the carven mausolea of the nightmare countries. They climb to the moonlit towers of ruined Rhine castles and falter down black cobweb steps beneath the scattered stones of forgotten cities in Asia. The haunted wood and the desolate mountain are their shrines, and they linger around the sinister monoliths on uninhabited islands. But the true epicure in the terrible, to whom a new thrill of unutterable ghastliness is the chief end and justification of existence, esteems most of all the ancient, lonely farmhouses of backwoods New England. For there the dark elements of strength, solitude, grotesqueness, and ignorance combine to form the perfection of the hideous.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to another episode of Learning Lovecraft. I am your host, Jason McKittrick, and joining me, as always, the traveler of the Eldritch Path, Mr. Ken James.
Good evening, folks.
And that was the opening paragraph of H.P. Lovecraft's The Picture in the House, the subject of this week's episode. And tonight, folks, we are joined by a guest on our podcast, illustrator extraordinaire, head honcho of HH Toys, and my partner in slime over at Order of the Thin Veil, Mr. Sam Heimer.
How y'all doing?
Thanks for finally joining us, Sam.
And just all-around fun guy, by the way.
Yeah,
I just want
fun
to say that.
Sam, before we get it kicked off, do you remember your first HPL story that you read?
Yeah, this might be it. First time I came across his writing was in Alfred Hitchcock Presents, those books you see at every yard sale you go to.
Right.
It's, like a horror anthology, but there's always one earlier Lovecraft story in all of them.
Yeah, it's usually like Rats in the Walls or...
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool, very cool. All right, so before we dive in, we got the usual, the publication and backstory particulars. So this was written on December 12th, 1920, and was first published in the July issue of the National Amateur. That's one of these amateur press publications that we discussed earlier. But it wasn't published until later in the summer of 1921. And then it went on to be reprinted in Weird Tales in 1923, and again in 1937. They just couldn't get enough. So guys, antiquated Yankee dialects, huh?
Yeah, I at first when I was like kind of like reading it, I was like trying to impose like different voices on it, and I was just like, I kind of don't know what the hell he's going for here, I was like... Yeah,
I mean, people hate it. I know people that hate these when he does this in some of the stories, but I kind of dig it because it makes you really hear that accent. You know
It's written phonetically, though, right?
Yeah.
Because for some of the lines, I definitely had to say it out loud, and I was like, oh, well, there it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I appreciate it, and I think it does. It really brings you into the story because, like Sam just said, you kind of have to say it out loud. It's like, oh, I hear it now. It's like that back bay New England kind of.
He does that in He too, right?
Yes.
So. Yeah, going into going into the two I read this time, like I was just like, I don't know if it was the headspace I was in.
Yeah.
I was telling Jay this, and I was like, I got to read these again.
Yeah.
Because like there was just things I wasn't picking up on this one. Like I was expecting something different, but then I after I got through the midsection, when I got to, I was like, oh, okay, I know what's going on here. And for some weird reason, just like, so he gets me in the, remember, and previously I said the flowery language, and like sometimes I just kind of get like, my mind just churns over those, and I kind of just lose my place in here.
Yeah, it happens.
And I'm just like, wait, and then I kind of like go, oh wait, okay, blood, okay, we're back.
Plenty of times, you'll be reading these, and it'll be like, you'll read a paragraph, and you'll be like, I don't remember what I just read.
Yeah, no, that happened to me last night, like a bunch.
Right.
And maybe, like I said, maybe it's just where I'm at. Maybe I got shit going on.
Yeah, no, it's where you're at.
Yeah, okay.
Because this story is so compact and perfectly paced.
It was more so the other story.
Yeah,
this one I just missed. Like I said, in the middle, where they're going with describing the book, right? And I'm like, I had to go, wait, and then I was like, the old-timey talk I get, because I'm a curmudgeon myself, so I got that right off the bat.
Do you see yourself speaking like this within the next couple decades?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Dude, I'm going to be there. I'm this guy, minus a couple things.
Just a few.
Just a few, like the look, Like
The wife, the dogs.
Yeah, all that.
Will DoorDash bring you the hoagies and the high life out in the woods, though?
I might have to send for it.
No.
You know?
Oh, Go Puff.
Yeah, Go Puff, exactly.
There we go.
Yeah, right.
All right, so this first paragraph, this opening paragraph that we just heard, this is one of the ones that really kind of like speaks to my heart. I got to be honest, because that first line, man, searchers after horror haunt strange far places. That's
Yeah, I loved that. Like that immediately, I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Get this into it.
yeah, no,
It makes me chuckle, though, because, yeah, you know, Lovecraft was a man born without a sense of humor, largely. But, like, he's talking about all these grand, far-flung, horrifying places, and then a fucking little cottage in the woods, like, that a hipster would rent to, you know, work on their poetry. Like,
Right.
You go from that to this, and...
well, I think that point is kind of made in the paragraph. He tells you all about these crazy places, and he says, but then there's backwoods New England, which is where he's at.
Right.
So I think he kind of like, that's the second part of that paragraph, where he's saying that, like, horror can essentially be found in your own backyard. Horror can be found in the places that are, like, most, like, familiar to us. And I think that first line is so awesome that you're just like, yes, yes. And then you, like, the second part of that paragraph, I think it's lost sometimes, but
Right.
Epic Cure and the Terrible. Mwah.
There's a lot of good little
Yeah.
two-word snippets, like,
Yeah.
what's the one? Oh, not going to come to me.
Well, it's okay.
Did I write it down? Yeah, hateful odor.
Hateful odor.
yes.
Like, every time I pass by a porta potty, I'm like, hateful odor.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and that's, we were talking about it in previous ones. Let me make a conscious effort to slow down my talking. But at our elbows, and From Beyond,
Yeah.
like that, I was saying, like, specific things like that, I'm like, haven't heard it put like that before, but it's all encompassing in how much sense it makes. It's like,
Right.
it's at the elbows. You're like, oh, because you get them real close too.
Get
you
too
know?
close for comfort.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
in your space.
Because then, I'm like, your elbows only go out so far, you know. So it's like it's right up there.
Right,
Like,
right.
you mentioned the flowery, but when he starts describing these houses and how they're watching you pass by, like, I kind of start to smell that weird, like, mildew / campfire after it rains. Like,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Well, by flowery, I meant mostly like. For me, it almost gets like over descriptive, right?
Right.
Like especially the Lord Dunsany stuff we've gone over before. Like,
Yes.
it gets into these grandiose explanations where I kind of start getting like lost in like the wait, well, what? What am I doing?
are we still talking about a gambrel roof?
Yeah, exactly. So like those kind of things that
Nice.
he starts getting into these big descriptions,
Right.
and I kind of lose track because my mind goes so deep into this, description of a page or like a front of a book.
Yeah, and that's known as his purple prose style. It's called
Okay.
purple, and some say it's on purpose to kind of put you in the mind of some of these people who
Right.
are sometimes the unreliable narrator, which we went
Right.
over a couple times at this point.
Yeah, but it's like something like that he's holding in his hand, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, are we describing a house? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get like because it's so much of this description
When
that
he
I'm
loves, he's Mr. Adjective
like, yeah.
And adverb.
and adverb.
I can't imagine he had too much editing, though. Like,
Well, that's a huge thing for him. You get through his letters where people, he would say to his friends, like, they're trying to hack up my story. It was by him viewed as like a personal attack when editors would do their job,
right.
and that's kind of what helped him not be so saleable. It's only after the fact it's like, oh, this guy was really weird, and it's So we get the second passage.
Most horrible of all sights are the little unpainted wooden houses remote from traveled ways, usually squatted upon some damp grassy slope or leaning against some gigantic outcropping of rock. 200 years and more they have leaned or squatted there while the vines have crawled and the trees have swelled and spread. They are almost hidden now in lawless luxuriances of green and guardian shrouds of shadow. But the small paned windows still stare shockingly, as if blinking through a lethal stupor, which wards off madness by dulling the memory of unutterable things.
Woo! HP.
Yeah. Golf clap on that one.
I mean, that's the one, and Sam kind of brought it up a little bit earlier. When you go, when you're into like the abandoned kind of house thing, or just pass by one, some houses kind of like leer at you. It's like there's, here's a regular house, oh, here's that house that's been sitting for a couple decades, and it kind of stares back at you.
It's also very different when it's out in the country as opposed to some random street in Philadelphia.
Sure.
Like, the remoteness of it just adds this extra layer of, like, what's going on in there. Like that Tom Waits song. What's he building in there?
Who's Tom Waits?
Wasn't he that guy in Mystery Men?
No, he was in Dracula.
I think he was in Mystery Men.
I don't remember.
He was the inventor. He was the guy.
I think he's a musician.
Yeah.
Oh, there
Could
we
be.
go. Great little paragraph. Basically encapsulates what we're talking about here about these homes. They have these secrets that are probably contained within. And after we get this paragraph, Lovecraft goes on a little bit to talk about the Puritans, which I guess if we're talking about New England, we're definitely going to get in on there. And the Puritans, for folks who don't know, they believe that man was sinful by nature and could attain virtue through hard work. And they also chose to shutter themselves from others to not see them. They had this inherent shame about them. They didn't want, they locked themselves in. They didn't celebrate holidays, none of it. So Lovecraft kind of makes the jump that in this isolation, these strange behaviors and traits started to take form, which is interesting. I mean, I guess that's how you get the Salem witch trials.
I like that overarching theme, though, that, like, in isolation and solitude, like, you don't have the law, you don't have the scorn of society. Like, if there is that weird dark seed in you, like, it is going to grow in that condition.
For sure. You don't even have a buddy to be like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop. No.
Yeah, make sure to visit him at least once a month when
he gets his daily call. Ken, we're doing this on video.
Yeah. I'm like, what? It pops up. I'm a wife beater with spaghetti stains.
Let me see those hands.
Yeah.
Actually, another guy that we all know of, he's the guy that needs to be checked in on.
Yeah.
And he reminds me, like, hey, if we left him alone for 20 years, he'd probably end up with this guy.
Yeah, guys, it's just, disclaimer here. I'm not a psychopath or
No.
I'm a bit of a curmudgeon. I'm not.
Ken's fine.
I'm good. I'm just new to this. That's all this is.
I like the quote here where he says, by necessity practical and by philosophy stern, these folks were not beautiful in their sins. Right?
Yeah.
So these aren't these people who are just these revelers who go off and like, woo, we'll repent on Sunday. Like, these folks are, we're sinful, we're disgusting, we're awful, we're just going to work it out, and, we're, God is here for us. And it's the austereness and the humorlessness, that's a word, right?
Yes.
Of them kind of really comes through. And I guess their whole culture kind of left this stain on New England, I guess. And it's a good jumping off point. Okay, so then we have another passage here, which is just wonderful because we get some firsts.
It was to a time-battered edifice of this description that I was driven one afternoon in November 1896 by a rain of such chilling copiousness that any shelter was preferable to exposure. I had been traveling for some time amongst the people of the Miskatonic Valley in quest of certain genealogical data, and from the remote, devious, and problematical nature of my course, had deemed it convenient to employ a bicycle despite the lateness of the season. Now I found myself upon an apparently abandoned road which I had chosen as the shortest cut to Arkham, overtaken by the storm at a point far from any town, and confronted with no refuge save the antique and repellent wooden building, which blinked with blared windows from between two huge leafless elms near the foot of a rocky hill. Distant though it was from the remnant of a road, the house nonetheless impressed me unfavorably the very moment I espied it. Honest, wholesome structures do not stare at travelers so slyly and hauntingly. And in my genealogical researches, I had encountered legends of a century before which biased me against places of this kind. Yet the force of the elements was such as to overcome my scruples, and I did not hesitate to wheel my machine up the weedy rise to the closed door, which seemed at once so suggestive and secretive.
All right, guys, we have, I know you don't know.
I think I know.
We're introduced to, once again, an unnamed narrator who was, taking this November afternoon bike ride. But our first mention of two very big things here. We have the first mention of the Miskatonic Valley, which is Lovecraft country. It was the first time that we're in Lovecraft country.
And Arkham? Is Arkham the other one?
And Arkham.
I picked up on that one.
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with Batman. Crazy.
Yeah.
Not till the 70s. So this is important because from here on out, Lovecraft we have his main town. I think we mentioned in earlier episodes. He's building a sandbox, right?
Right.
He's coming up with these places he likes to put stuff. Well, now we have two definitive areas. We have the Miskatonic Valley, and within that valley, the town of Arkham. This is his town. We're going to visit this place quite a bit in the upcoming stories. Just a little bit here. Arkham, loosely based on Salem, Massachusetts. And yes, the Joker and Mr. Freeze have nothing to do with it.
I don't buy it, but okay.
Maybe they do. They just haven't given those names yet.
Can I also interject that?
Yeah.
I think this story is like a great kind of jumping off for that. Not just because it's the first time it's mentioned, but because half of like the little throwaway mentions in this story are actual people, places, and books.
Yeah.
And like, this is kind of the departure now where some of the earlier tomes he mentions, some of the artists, some of the people did actually, live. But like, after this, he kind of stops doing that completely.
Yeah.
All those grimoires, like, not just the big one, but like, are no longer, rooted in.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think you're absolutely right. And I think that with this one, we have this weird book that we're about to get to, where it's like, it's not the Necronomicon yet, but he's like, all right, I need this. I think he gets the sense from the story. Ooh, an ancient tome with weird pictures in it. This was definitely getting the gears going, for sure. Like I mentioned before that, here we have another unnamed narrator, which he's wont to do. What do you think of that at this point, the unnamed narrator?
I like it. It opens up, it almost opens up like you putting yourself as that character almost in a way. So like, it's like, it puts you in the place of like, this was happening to me yesterday. Like everything was kind of coming out in my own voice. So I'm a fan of it.
Yeah.
We said before that some people have a problem with it.
Yes.
But I like it too because it just kind of leaves it open ended for you could insert here whatever you're seeing because like we've gotten before like an unnamed narrator with like a nice pinky ring or something like
yes.
But at this point like most of them don't have too much of a description, right? You know what I mean? So I'm down with that. And also it opens up, it just reminds me of like the shows I grew up with, you know what I mean? Like someone telling a story and it's just cool. It's just like I can either get my voice in it or I can it gives me that vibe of me listening to someone tell a story. And I always love that kind of like campfire, like let me spin this yarn.
And it definitely pulls you in because I've heard that many times. Like, well, he could have just given him a name. It's like, well, yes, but without giving him the name, it pulls you in more. I always thought,
Right.
And I think it's a trope of his that actually works, and I don't know why people give him such a hard time for it.
People want everything kind of like nice package, like open. There's like the beginning, a middle, and end. And the good guy wins. And the guy that's reading it, he's for some reason he's bigger than he is. I like the fact that in most of these stories they're just people. It's like they're most of them are throwaways. You know what I mean? Just like this guy, he's seeing some horror unimaginable, and it's like it happened, and that's just one of the so many of these things that have happened that it happens. There's so many people that these things happen, and it's out there, but good luck finding it, or him, or that person that told it.
The little bit he gives you does kind of set you up for like what kind of person this is, like and. What did kind of stop me is that anytime it is an unnamed kind of vague narrator, I always just pop Lovecraft in there. But the second there's mention of a bike, I'm like, oh yeah, no, H.P. Lovecraft is not riding a bike on an unpaved surface. Like, he would have saddle sore like 10 feet down the road, curl up in a ball and die.
Right, and this one too, nice. In most of them, the narrators are like the straight man, right? Like, they're always like the normal guy.
Well, the learned, high education fellow.
But also like it's kind of like anyone that's lower of class, they're the weird ones, and then there's like politicians and kings above them. Like it's like, no, this is how class should be. This is how people should be. Anywhere that's not in here, they're either like, oh, because this guy's a snob. Like this one, he's kind of like, oh, this place is, like.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely. We have a type also starting here. I think that's I don't know if it's a first, because I think the first was probably in From Beyond, but we get a first of this guy he's researching genealogical data.
Well, we see that in 3 other stories. Or?
Yeah.
I mentioned you haven't got him there.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
You haven't gotten there.
Sorry, man.
Read a book, you fucking...
Yeah, I'm trying, man. That's why Jay started this.
Yeah.
He was like, dude, Ken is so dumb.
I never said Ken was dumb.
He's like, look, if I'm going to hang out with you.
Your text messages start reading like that guy we're about to meet.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. I'm always like, Jazid yet? Was just do like, you come over to sleep on my couch? Like,
Them pictures are funny. They're memes, Ken. Come on.
Right. Yeah, but Jay was like, if I'm going to continue to have conversations with you, you have to read all these books. That's what it was.
I never said that. What I said was, because every time he would speak, and I think we hit this in the first episode, I'd be like, yeah, there's a Lovecraft story. It was like, every time we hang out, well, there's a Lovecraft story where this is covered, because we'd be watching some horror movie or something. I was like, yeah, they stole this from Shadow over Innsmouth. Oh, they stole this for, out of Keller Out of Space. And
I would do like the, and like shake my head,
Or like Prometheus. I'm like, yeah, they stole the whole plot of Prometheus from At the Mountains of Madness. And Ken just like, shrugs his shoulders. So I was like, you know what?
Cool.
Yeah, cool. So, and that's where it came out of, was just like, you know what? And I had that idea that day. I was like, let's do it. Let's have you go through it. And here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Hey, look at us.
So simple, so pure.
Yeah. So Philadelphia.
Yeah. Northeast Philadelphia.
Get closer to your world.
Yeah.
Right. So he's here at this house, right? And once again, he mentions the whole thing about this scary house that kind of stares at him. It has life already because of its age and its squalor. But he, it's awful outside. So he goes ahead and he gives a knock.
But as he steps through the door, I imagine going, ugh.
Well, here he does that in the beginning. He's like, well, it's unkempt, but not the terribly unkempt.
Yeah.
There must be people home. So that's what forces him to knock.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, there might be an undesirable.
Yeah,
I imagine there's like a Red Roof Inn down the street, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go with this place.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with this place, yeah. Well, he had he has that bug already. I mean, he's doing genealogical research, but he already had the interest in these houses, so I could see why he went in there. I would have went in there.
Yeah.
So he goes inside.
I probably did go in there as a kid.
I definitely did. This story has, every time I read it, there's flashbacks of like Sam said before, the smell of a mold. It's like it's in my nose right now.
Yeah, it is.
So he goes inside, and although the house is neglected, like I said, it seems as though it's still inhabited. So he knocks, no answer, lets himself in, right? And as soon as he gets in, he's hit with this quote unquote peculiarly hateful odor. Sam mentioned. Leans his bike against the wall, and we get this description of the inside, right? Basic kind of house, very dilapidated, obviously. And you get this staircase going up, a door to the cellar, and then two closed doors that go to these separate rooms, all right? So he goes ahead, he opens one of the doors, and he thinks it's this low-ceilinged room, and he presumes that it's a sitting room, and it has all these sparse furnishings, right? And it appears that the room is an untouched relic of the 18th century.
Now, a sitting room, right?
Yeah.
Is that like
parlor.
But I'm saying, would you say like nowadays that's just like the living room, like the TV room?
Well,
the rec room?
Kind of. I mean, you would have this is the room that has the fireplace.
Right.
So, kind of, yeah.
Because back then, the TV was the fireplace.
Back then,
every
room had a fireplace.
Every floor. Because they would have to be attached to the main chute.
Right. Wouldn't they be double-sided, though, too?
If they had money.
Whatever, nerds.
Here's where we could have used more architect.
Well, it's definitely what he's talking about, because he mentions that there's a table with multiple chairs.
Right.
So they at the very least had meals there, and when someone came over, this is probably the entertaining room.
Yeah, exactly. I was just saying, because like when you think about that, like, oh, the sitting room, it's like, oh, these guys didn't have TVs, that's your entertainment. We just sit and watch the fire.
Newsflash, Ken, there were no TVs in the 18th century.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like the modern
and 18th century means 1700s.
And it specifically mentions that nothing in the room is
it's true.
I gotcha.
Post-Revolutionary War.
Right. Which is amazing, because it kind of tickles his almost like, if I was a collector this would have been like mint. But everything is dingy, and it has this kind of like overall just like it's untouched. It's almost like a time capsule, and he's kind of taken by it. And then he notices something on the table.
The first object of my curiosity was a book of medium size lying upon the table and presenting such an antediluvian aspect that I marveled at beholding it outside a museum or library. It was bound in leather with metal fittings and was in an excellent state of preservation, being altogether an unusual sort of volume to encounter in an abode so lowly. When I opened it to the title page, my wonder grew even greater, for it proved to be nothing less rare than Pigafetta's account of the Congo region, written in Latin from the notes of the sailor Lopez and printed at Frankfurt in 1598. I had often heard of this work, with its curious illustrations by the brothers Debris, hence for a moment forgot my uneasiness in my desire to turn the pages before me. The engravings were indeed interesting, drawn wholly from imagination and careless descriptions, and represented Negroes, white skins, and Caucasian features. Nor would I soon have closed the book had not an exceedingly trivial circumstance upset my tired nerves and revived my sensation of disquiet. What annoyed me was merely the persistent way in which the volume tended to fall open of itself at plate XZI, which represented in gruesome detail a butcher shop of the cannibal Anziques. I experienced some shame at my susceptibility to so slight a thing, but the drawing nevertheless disturbed me, especially in connection with some adjacent passages descriptive of Anzique gastronomy.
Almost as if that book was open to that page a lot.
What do you mean?
Like someone just like stares at it all the time, you know, and it's just open there a lot.
I've got this copy of Entertainment Weekly from 1995, and if you throw that on any random surface, it opens up to Christina Ricci in that blue fucking space dress.
Sick.
Nice, bro.
Sick.
Good pull, man. I'm into that.
So everyone has a copy of this picture in front of them. If you were a backwoods yokel and you had a book with this in it, not to say that I would be this way, maybe. But this is a hell of a picture to have in you know, this guy who, he probably had the Bible in his house, some kind of grammar book, maybe some kind of general knowledge kind of thing, but he ain't getting this kind of stuff normally.
No.
And for him to have this kind of thing, you kind of understand why this kind of like exploded his mind so much.
And wait, you didn't even mention yet that not only is this a real book, but DeBry was a real engraver.
Yeah, I was going to get to it. Go ahead, Sam, tell us.
I just jumped the shark.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But
no, I was literally just going to get to it. Go ahead.
No, I just...
But when you first sent me this picture, this sent me too, because now I'm looking at it again, and I saw the shape of the head, and for some reason I thought Conquistador.
Yeah.
But now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, because the way it looked at first, they had that armor that would, just go around here, but the hats, they pointed at the front, and they were metal.
Yeah.
Now that I'm looking at it, it's a lot different.
But you're onto something for several reasons, because DeBry is most known for his work on European exploration in the Americas.
Okay.
So you would have seen a ton of that armor.
Right.
And on top of that, this is all second, third, fourth hand. So, have you seen Albrecht Durer's Rhinoceros?
I was telling her yesterday.
It's
someone told him about a rhinoceros, or
exactly.
There's an elephant one too, where it's there's the medieval and illuminated manuscript, same kind of thing.
It's just
fifth hand.
Right.
And also,
I think that's what we're seeing here, and that's why, if you kind of pace Lovecraft's weird racist comments, this one is kind of interesting, where no, this is indicative of how this artist is getting this information.
Right.
You choosing to bring it up doesn't add or detract from the story, but it's not the typical. I won't get into it here.
Well, and it was one of the first names too. It sounded very Latin, and I was like, okay, my mind just started kind of going there.
Right.
And then I saw the picture and I saw the armor, but now that I'm looking, because this guy specifically, that was the first guy that popped out. I was like, oh, total Conquistador. But then now I'm looking at the other guy and I'm like, Froofy hat. Not Conquistador.
Exactly, because this was by Antonio Pigafetta. He was an Italian scholar and explorer. Pigafetta was an assistant to Magellan on his voyage to the Indies and kept a detailed journal. He was one of the 18 men who returned to Spain out of the 240 who set out on the voyage 3 years earlier.
Would Lovecraft have even had access to this specific book, though?
No, and they even say that in some of the researching that I was doing, they don't think he actually saw the illustration either. They think that he just heard a description of the illustration. He's almost doing the same thing as the other guys did. So
that's kind of funny, actually.
Which actually adds an extra degree of separation, right? So if we're already at fourth, fifth hand, Lovecraft adds another. So we're almost like sixth hand at what it was, which is very funny. So this book, illustrations by the brothers DeBry, and you have these cannibals. And you have this real, journal account of what happened over there, and it is an actual book, but it's, like I said, it's probably most likely, and most scholars seem to agree, including Joshi, our man, that he never actually saw this book. So it actually is another. It's like a game of telephone. It's just more and more. It's like, I wonder what they actually saw. They're like, oh, we were in the Congo, and some of the natives had lunch. And then 7 degrees later, it's what? They're cannibals? There's a butcher shop?
Well, it also mentions like monkey men or something.
Yeah.
And at that point, I texted him. I was like, "Oh, our boy got a shout out," because I'm thinking he's throwing back to the German family.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like that. My mind went there because at any time now, my mind's gonna go there. That story is one of my favorite.
We had a good time on that episode.
My god, dude! That story, I catch myself at work just sometimes thinking about
which story.
The facts concerning Arthur German. We did that a couple weeks ago, and
it was just because I read it and I was like, I was like, this is so good.
It's unintentionally hilarious, and we had such a good time because he didn't see that coming. Because right before we did a Dreamland story, he's like, ugh. And I was like, wait for the next. Somebody boxes a gorilla, and the gorilla kills him. One guy jumps off the ship to go marry one. It's nuts.
It's absolutely nuts. And literally, I had texted Jay, and at the end of it, I was just like, did this guy fuck a gorilla? That's how it came out. And I love that story, and it's so wild that I'm like, I read the he's talking about the monkey style man, and I was like, This is them, right? This has got to be the descendants in the Congo.
This could be a call out to it and a shout out to it, because also Lovecraft pulled a lot of his research from the encyclopedia.
Right.
So the section of the Congo may have had this, and they're see this, and he's pulling from just that.
But I was more thinking along the lines of if you saw someone in Fairmount Park grilling a skinned baboon arm, you'd probably be like, oh, that's a man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And you might see that in Fairmount.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, yeah.
Certain sections.
Yes. I shit you not, we were driving through North Philly one time to go to one of the martial arts class back in the
North
day.
Philly stories from Ken James.
Yeah, well, I shit you not, in someone's backyard there was a pit bull and a fucking ostrich in someone's backyard. I couldn't believe it.
Was the pit bull riding?
No, they were just next to each other chilling. It was
just friends.
They were just friends. I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm 14 years old. Couldn't fucking believe it. No, but I saw it and I'm like, and Chris just goes, yeah, North Philly, man.
Yeah.
I was like, got ostriches out here, man. This is how we're rolling out here, man. And that's a true Philly fact. True
Philly facts by Ken James.
True Philly facts by Ken James.
All right, so this book is falling open to its page specifically. We kind of know where we're going at this point. It's the picture in the house, right?
Yeah.
He our narrator, he's looking at the shelf of the other books. He really can't make out what any of it is, so immediately I say Necronomicon, the Julia Child's cooking book.
Oh yeah.
It could have been an emu. I just want to say that too.
Eat, Pray, Love.
Eat, Pray, Love.
You think that was there too?
Chicken soup for the teenage soul.
Excellent.
Chicken soup for the loser's soul.
I like it. For the New England losers. Folks, if you would like to add some volumes to the shelf, go ahead and comment on the post. Let us know what other fantastic books would have been found on this shelf.
Yeah. Scary stories to tell in the dark.
Of course.
1 through 3.
That's under his pillow. You don't part with that. So as he's looking on the shelf, he hears footsteps overhead.
Mm-hmm.
Me being the guy who used to, explore abandoned places, God.
Yeah.
Immediately, fuck, don't hear it.
Well, especially the way I'm a big fan of the way he described the footsteps.
Heavy.
Yeah. But he also says they're kind of I don't know, I guess it's just the way he describes it's ooh, I don't like those steps.
Yeah.
You can keep those steps.
We'll come back to that. So he hears footsteps coming down the cellar stairs. He hears footsteps coming down the stairs, and the door opens, and we're met with a very peculiar individual.
Me in 30 years.
In the doorway stood a person of such singular appearance that I should have exclaimed aloud but for the restraints of good breeding. Old, white, bearded, and ragged, my host possessed a countenance and physique which inspired equal wonder and respect. His height could not have been less than 6 feet, and despite a general air of age and poverty, he was stout and powerful in proportion. His face, almost hidden by a long beard which grew high on the cheeks, seemed abnormally ruddy and less wrinkled than one might expect, while over a high forehead fell a shock of white hair, little thinned by the years. His blue eyes, though a trifle bloodshot, seemed inexplicably keen and burning. But for his horrible unkemptness, the man would have been as distinguished, looking as he was impressive. This unkemptness, however, made him offensive despite his face and figure. Of what his clothing consisted I could hardly tell, for it seemed to me no more than a mass of tatters surmounting a pair of high, heavy boots, and his lack of cleanliness surpassed description.
Okay, right off the bat, who does this remind you of as soon as you listen to it? What popped in your mind? Anybody?
I told you who my casting is, but I mean...
Not casting. No. I thought of Clive Barker from the first Hellraiser when he was in the pet shop, the homeless guy.
Dude... come on, that's a deep hole for me. Hellraiser is in my one of my go-tos.
Fine.
Sorry, dude.
It's all good. So his worst nightmare of any urban explorer ever is finding somebody in the house you're exploring.
Yeah,
literally.
Bless you.
So there's ghosts in here. Ghosts of guests of the future. This is great, and he describes him in kind of this way. There's this peculiarness about him, unkempt but still distinguished looking. So it's already shining through that, like, okay, Lovecraft's saying to himself, okay, this guy's from the 18th century. Obviously, we know what we're talking about here, but he's like, well, I can't rag on him too much because he's from my favorite period of time. So he's disgusting but still distinguished. Like, he can't bring himself to be like, ew, dude. Like, he just can't do it.
But the tall and stout thing, like it's also an imposing kind of like.
It's almost like he's been eating stuff that's been given him.
Now you're jumping the shark, motherfucker.
We're allowed to do that.
Whoa, fellas,
it's all good.
Let's do what's right for the episode.
For the good of the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at the kids.
As I click the "This is not made for children" button when I upload it,
because it isn't.
Yeah.
We were trying to get Pee-wee on the episode, but we can't now. R.I.P.
I mean, blood and Ouija board.
Halloween episode?
Wait, Robin Williams is dead. No,
Him and Pee-wee are having a fucking hang of some kind of hang. They're at the ghost party together now.
Yeah, there's ghost coke going around, man.
Don Rickles has to be there.
Yeah. Does ghost coke glow?
Sure.
What color? Blue, green?
It's a bluish. It's that whitish blue.
Gotcha.
That they have like Spirit Halloween on all their stuff.
Right. Okay. All right, so
I believe they call that ectoplasm blue. I think it's called.
It could be. I don't know. I think of green when I think of ecto, the cooler. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that better, but we're off track.
Hey, buddy, it's all good. It's all fun. So this is the point in the story where we get hit with, and this is a first for Lovecraft. We get this Yankee dialect, this antiquated dialect that's, according to the text, is from a few centuries before, and me and Ken discussed it, a little look behind the curtain here at Learning Lovecraft. We were like, well, how are we going to read this? Like, do we have we usually use a software for some of the reading, but we were like, this is kind of fun. Why don't we give it a shot? Because it kind of gives you the impression like how this type of writing goes, because it really does force you to kind of like confront the text. So, all right, so I'll give it a shot. So we get,
"Catched in the rain, be ye? Glad you was nigh the house and had the sense to come in right in. I calculate I was asleep, else I'd have heard you. I ain't as young as I used to be, and I need a powerful sight of naps nowadays. Traveling far? I ain't seen many folks along this road since they took off the Arkham stage."
It's good. No, that's
tried.
dude, I would have laughed my whole way through. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. I'll do the next patch because this is funny.
Glad to see ye, young sir. New faces is scarce round here, and I ain't got too much cheer up these days. Cheer up. Guess you hail from Boston, don't ye? Boston. I never been there, but I can tell a town man when I see him. We had over there since district schoolmaster in '84, but he quit sudden and no one ever heard of him since.
Has he ever heard like a person with this kind of accent? You know what I mean? Like,
So this sounds like, because you can kind of get some of like, I hear New England in there, but I guess he's trying to like even make it more like, he's like, all right, backwoods yokel, but New England. So like it's weird. I mean, there's no other way to describe it.
because
It's
he's even
weird.
like it's even like because he says like a dialect I thought was long gone.
Well, it is.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so how would he have known?
He's just
what
doing
it
his
sounds
best.
like? All right, I'm just like trying to.
He consulted the Necronomicon and they told him exactly.
Right, I'm
what to
gonna see. I gotta read more of this stuff.
I mean, but Lovecraft himself is traveling at this point, right?
do. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, probably down in Florida.
Maybe.
Who's his bud down there?
Barlow.
It's probably like, hey, we're going to go check out this guy that feeds alligators live chickens. The dude talked exactly like that.
Maybe.
I mean, an hour drive outside of Philadelphia, we got people that talk like that.
An hour. Let's go down to Kenzo,
They don't even talk anymore. They're just on the ground. They're just gone.
man. That's. We'll cover that in our Kensington episode.
Yeah, the Kensington episode of.
All you just hear is
Flirting
traffic in the
Lovecraft.
background and then
Yeah.
someone getting run over.
Yep.
Sorry, folks. So, the narrator asks the old man how he came into possession of such a rare book as Pigafetta's Regnum Congo, and we get this wonderful.
Oh, that African book? Captain Ebenezer Holt traded me that in '68. Him was killed in the war. Ebenezer was on a Salem merchantman for years and picked up a sight of queer stuff in every port. He got this in London, I guess. He used to like to buy things at the shops. I was up to his house once on the hill trading horses when I see this book. I relished the pictures, so he gave it in on a swap. 'Tis a queer book. Here, leave me get on my spectacles.
So he pulls out these spectacles, which are clearly from the 18th century, right? He goes into, I imagine like the Ben Franklin spectacles, right?
Yeah. It's like the thin wire. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
They fold out like they're
Exactly.
Just, yeah.
Exactly. So then he goes on to.
Ebenezer could read a little of this. 'Tis Latin, but I can't. I had 2 or 3 schoolmasters read me a bit, and Parson Clark, him that they say got drowned in the pond. Can you make anything out in it?
Me no read so good.
Hulk like raging fire. Sorry.
No, the old Phil Hartman, the fire band. That's all I could say.
If only we had Phil Hartman here too. We'll do that. Oh, him and Pee Wee are together now. Ah, I just realized that.
And his wife's up there doing.
She's in hell.
You're right. Good call.
Andy Dick will join her shortly.
Absolutely. Ugh. So the narrator translates some of what the old man wants to hear, and the old man becomes like almost giddy, right? He's into this book, especially this picture. We get this next quote from him.
Queer how pictures can set a body thinking, but now I'll show you the bestin' over here, nigh the middle.
So the book falls open once again over its of its own accord, and because obviously he had frequently opened it, like we had said, and we get this picture, and you guys both have a picture of it, and it's this butcher shop amongst these cannibals. So he's describing this butcher shop, and you have these Anzique cannibals, and the narrator, his restlessness comes back because he's really put off by this, like, because this is not something he was expecting at all. I mean, he's coming to this abandoned house. He wasn't expecting to see anybody in there, and certainly wasn't going to expect this whatever this is. And he thought the really bizarre thing about the picture was that the artist had made the Africans look like white men, and and then the limbs and quarters hanging from the shop walls, and how ghastly the butcher is, and the axe, and the image, he kind of says, had this whole kind of incongruous kind of nature about it. And this is kind of what we already just talked about, because it's like, it's like 7 things removed. It's like,
Right.
it's a game of telephone. But this old man really likes this picture.
Yeah.
So we're hit with another narration here, and we have
What do you think of this? Ain't never seen the like hereabouts, eh? When I see this, I tell Eb Holt, that's something to stir you up and make your blood tickle. What I read in scripture ain't about slaying, like the Midianites was slew, and I kind of like things, but I ain't got no picture of it. Here a body can see all they see is to. I suppose 'tis sinful, but ain't we all born living in sin? That feller being chopped up gives me a tickle every time I look at him. I have to keep looking at him. See where the butcher cut off his feet? There's his head on that bench with one arm side of it and the other arm's on the ground side of the meat block.
When I was reading this, I'm like reading because I usually like read kind of up here, and as I was reading it, I was sort of like just like pulling the book further away, and just tilting my head in disgust at the way this guy is talking about this picture. And not because like, okay, I've seen worse in movies, I've heard worse in true crime stories, but like I'm picturing this dirty, stinky, guy, like kind of like at this point he's like kind of like hunched over and like turned on.
Under those rags, he's got a raging heart stalker.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah, dude. It's.
He's ready.
Yeah, he's ready.
With the picture, my brain immediately went to Robert Carlyle butchering up the body in Ravenous, where it's just a torso on the stump.
I was thinking Ravenous this whole time, but like the time periods, like I even started going like, when was this? Well, like I started doing that kind of thing. But yeah, and also Ravenous.
Oh, we could. Oh yeah, top 10 for me. But no, there might have been some overlap. When was the Mexican-American War?
Well, that's later. That's in the middle 1800s.
Yeah, and this is talking Pilgrims, so this is like 1400s to 1650.
Yeah, this is.
Ebenezer Holt died in 1835, so.
But but he's also East Coast. And
oh wait, right. And the book is 1700s.
Well, the book is like 1500s.
The book would be in between Pilgrims arriving, Europeans arriving.
Hey, your vibe attracts your tribe. All right, so all these weirdos are getting together no matter what. And
once again, this was around the part where the first time I read it, I was like, I totally get this part. Like it was all the stuff before this that was kind of getting lost in translation for me. This is the part where I'm like, okay, I know the dread. I know what's happening.
And
here.
that's why the antiquated dialect and the way he wrote it phonetically works so well, because you have to then you're like, oh my god, what a weirdo. What am I saying? Like right now.
Like I was saying too, most of it I'm in my head doing it in my voice. Then it gets to this part and I'm just like, who's that weirdo in my head? I'm like, ew, dude, that's what I was getting, like the book stunk to me. I was like, ew, stinky old weirdo.
But the little hints he's dropping now, like, at what point do you start thinking, how old is this motherfucker?
He's from the 1700s. I think they've made the case at some point that him drinking or being a cannibal has enhanced his life.
We not at this point yet. He's still talking about. You haven't got to the point
we haven't gotten to that yet, but he does definitely mention that.
Right, well, he starts talking about, I ain't done nothing, and he starts going, okay.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
So, the narrator here now, he's consumed with the horror of this old man. He even says it. And this quote got me really... this got me because, so I'll read it. He goes...
Once I tried something funny. Here, young sir, don't get scared. All I done was to look at the picture before I killed the sheep for market. Killing sheep was kinder more fun after looking at it.
So it's already kind of starting for him. Yeah. So he's like, you want to see something funny? It's like, oh, Christ. Like the Twilight Zone. Want to see something really scary? Or like, hey, check this out. Isn't this cool? And it's like, no, bro, this is not cool at all.
So here, at this point, too, here's where I'm like, where is HP's head? Because, that's some 1980s serial killer type deal. That's something that
this story in its entirety is kind of before its time.
Exactly. Yes. That's what I'm saying. Because he's they would do stuff like this.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that eventually let's say 60s, 1960s.
Yeah.
They start with looking at something weird while they're doing their, they're skinning the chicken or they're on the farm.
Right.
And then they fantasize about their mother, and then 20 people in town are dead.
Right. It starts with the local dogs, and then he starts trapping animals, and then a school teacher.
And then it's like doing that stuff with the thought or a picture of like a dead human. Or
If Lovecraft would have taken this one step further and tacked on one extra scene before the resolution of this story, you would have a fucking Hills Have Eyes or shitty Eli Roth movie.
Yeah, and honestly,
all shitty.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Actually, I'll tell you what. I just watched Death Wish, the remake.
Yeah,
wasn't so bad.
Hey Ken, smack yourself.
Yeah. I was at work. Anything's great at work. It's on TV.
Anything's not be at work.
Yeah, right.
No, I totally get that, and this is what? This is like 20 years removed from before Ed Gein gets captured. So this is like great poll, Ken, because this is where was HP's head at? Because this is like, I also kind of thought of David Berkowitz, Son of Sam, like obsessing over stuff before he went out to do what he was going to do, like obsessing.
Yeah.
Like he had a window into this, of like this obsessive nature of just like I can't stop looking at this
picture.
And
he also has he's got the inside track on the fact that it's almost sexual for this guy. The way he's like doing that, like and it's like that their impulse was all sexual. That whole it's seriously, it was a weird like
he gets a tickle.
Yeah, and he was saying it made your blood like I was like, how does he have a grip on this? Yeah, and that was like once again that goes back to what we've said in the beginning. Some people think that a lot of this stuff is like, HB had one foot in the the other world and like. Right. But like that's fast. It's fascinating that he is pulling from this thing that isn't even studied.
Yeah.
But if you boil it down, it's just like we're going from cannibals in Africa to serial killers. Like, end of the day, just rotten, like diseased human nature.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm saying like he's putting in a way of like that the studies haven't even started yet.
Right.
Like,
No.
And the classification of that, it's odd that like he's putting together a pretty accurate depiction or like framework of what like the FBI would look at like in a profile.
Yeah.
A pretty accurate profile of a modern serial killer from the 60s till now.
You're in for a treat because he predicts the future several times.
He does.
Right. This was the first time because once again, like I said, at work, a lot of true crime podcasts, and I've always kind of just like been in that weird like, what's going on in these people's heads, and he just like
he captures the obsessive nature, and like where he gets to the point where it's like he's looked at this so many times where like it has to escalate, right? They talk about escalation. It's like, well, he's only looked at it so many times. Well, now he has to take it to the next level. The next level was to kill this sheep. Right. Okay, well, I didn't do nothing wrong. I just I thought about it and then I killed the sheep.
Yeah, and but then I like looked at the picture. It made it like a little better. There was like a thrill. Yeah. And then it's like, because you're pretending that the sheep's a human, you freak. Yep. Like.
Oh no, 100%.
Yeah. Anyway,
so right after he said this, and I loved. Here, young sir, don't get scared, because he probably was like.
Yeah. At that point, his one back foot's just going towards the door,
Yeah.
The old man has like a hand on his leg.
I prepared us some food.
Right.
So right after he says this, we get this huge peal of thunder and flash of lightning, which is out of season. He thinks it's kind of weird, but it shakes this entire house. But the old man does not seem to notice. He's looking right at this, and he's just, he's in it, right? He's back on his bullshit, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So we get this next passage from him.
Sheep was kind of more fun, but twain't quite satisfying. Queer how a craven gets a hold on you. As you love the almighty, young man, don't tell nobody, but I swear to God, that picture begun to make me hungry for victuals I ain't could raise nor buy. Here, sit still. What's ailing you? I didn't do nothing, only I wondered how 'twould be if I did. They say meat makes blood and flesh and gives you new life, so I wondered if 'twouldn't make a man live longer and longer, even 'twas more the same.
So the obsession goes further, right? It's the escalation. So he's like, I killed the sheep, but then he's like, what? He wants to try it out,
right? And then you get the tidy exposition, right? Like right there, it's like this is what's happening. He gives it to you, like if the bad guys do in modern movies. You get like a lot of times too in a modern movie where like the bad guy's laying out his plot, you just go exposition. Like the whole dialogue's exposition. It's like
I got your monologue.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's like. Yeah, he does that trip of like explains it there, but I like it in the way of like how it's this guy like it's kind of like he sees that he's scared his next meal off, you know, and it's like he's like, oh darn it, I got caught up in its obsessing over the picture again, you know, and it's like. Shit, I gave up too much. You know, like, wait, no. Like,
he's done talking, and the guy's halfway down the block on the bike.
I was just kidding.
Yeah.
Screw you for judging me.
I was only kidding.
So we come to kind of this is where we sort of get to the end here, and this is kind of my only gripe with this, the way that he kind of constructs the ending of this, because we get this part where he says that this rapidly increasing storm, amidst whose fury I was presently to open my eyes on a smoky solitude of blackened ruins. Right. So he tells us right there that the storm happens, but then presently, as he's saying this, he's looking at this smoky solitude of blackened ruins. So it's the house, and it's now. It's so weird how he set this up, and it's my gripe with the story. So he lays it out here.
The open book lay flat between us, with the picture staring repulsively upward. As the old man whispered the words more the same, a tiny spattering impact was heard, and something shooed on the yellowed paper of the upturned volume. I thought of the rain and of a leaky roof, but rain is not red. On the butcher's shop of the Anzique cannibals, a small red spattering glistened picturesquely, lending vividness to the horror of the engraving. The old man saw it and stopped whispering, even before my expression of horror made it necessary. Saw it and glanced quickly toward the floor of the room he had left an hour before. I followed his glance and beheld just above us on the loose plaster of the ancient ceiling a large, irregular spot of wet crimson, which seemed to spread even as I viewed it. I did not shriek or move, but merely shut my eyes. A moment later came the titanic thunderbolt of thunderbolts, blasting that accursed house of unutterable secrets and bringing the oblivion which alone saved my mind.
So, if you remember back to the tomb, where, you know, they're all getting the height of the revelry happens, and we get this, what's known as this supernatural bolt of lightning.
Yes.
Cleansing bolt of lightning.
Cleansing bolt of lightning. Right you are, Sam.
Thanks for coming in today, Sam.
My pleasure.
And it's kind of strange the way he puts it in here, because it's like, okay, so that's your ending, like, and then but before it telegraphs it and tells us that he's standing in front of this smoldering ruins.
Is that what actually or is he imagining that happening?
Apparently it's what has happened from every, and this is I always found this a strange stumbling point on this story.
Well, right, because how is he telling the story if he's dead?
He's not dead. It hit the house and he was able to come out, and he's got this thing where he does later in stories where like the guy will faint and then the thing will have happened. It's where it's like it's almost like a cut, and then it's like
it's known as the first ever Tarantinoing. Where
the old man wasn't sucking his feet, so
right. Well,
his feet were dirty though, and he may have been a blonde years earlier.
Oh,
Well,
if they would have stopped it at the guy closing his eyes, that's so soul crushing.
Yeah.
Like he just accepted death. He's like, well, I'm a puny, scholarly fella, and this 6 foot.
My shared bike's outside, you know,
right?
Like
I'm not going to get the deposit back on my.
My
I mean, he's probably going to get a deposit, but probably not from It's there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, in researching for this episode, I came across this quite a bit. This is the stumbling point a lot of people have for the story, that this cleansing bolt of lightning. It's like, okay, it hits the house, but the paragraph before, he tells us that he's seeing these smoldering ruins. So, he makes it out clearly because he told the story.
Yeah, I kind of saw it at that point, though. It's almost like the cleansing bolt of lightning, or the bolt of lightning, at that point, is the writer going like, I can save this man. Like, it's him imposing his will from on the other dimension of it.
Deus
where
Ex
it's like,
Machina.
oh, he learned all this. It's like, he's telling his, like, oh, I can save this man. Like, you know, like almost like pontificating on, like, oh, the knowledge that he gained in there.
Yeah.
I know this knowledge.
Okay.
I gave this character this knowledge, and he confronted the fear of getting too close to what he was looking for.
Okay.
And then it's like, I'll save him and take him out. But also, I'll telegraph it. Because he's looking at, you know, like, I don't know.
Maybe.
It seemed a little pretentious. In
I mean,
writing.
it is, and the like, like Sam said, like if the last scene was him seeing the drop of blood hit the illustration, and then he just closes his eyes because he knows that's it. That, for me personally, that would have been like the perfect ending there, because it's like, oh god. But then he puts in this and lets him survive. Puts in this lightning bolt, and then
he uses that a few more times in the future.
Yeah.
And doesn't Poe use that once or twice?
Yeah. Well, Fall of the House of Usher.
Right.
That's the ending, basically the ending of the story. He's saved from that, and the house splits in half, and then so he probably is, mirroring Poe, because that's his guy at this point. But it's, I can, okay, he wakes up and he's there, and then it's okay. So then maybe that adds some kind of like weird time and place slip kind of too, because he's so obsessed with it. Maybe that guy wasn't there. Maybe this was like some kind of disease, something like. But it doesn't. You don't get that impression, so it's like you kind of have to do some mental gymnastics a little bit at the end of this for it to be like.
I mean, but after that drop of blood, like how much really can you do? Because if we got, if we got a paragraph of like the escape from the Gilman House Hotel, that wouldn't have been fitting.
No, and I'm glad that he did end it that way. It just, this is early HPL, and you can tell because it just it's good, but it's almost perfect. It's like right there. It's like, and it just, if he just would have left that part out.
Also hasn't written much in as far as action sequences at this point, right?
No, I mean we before we got From Beyond has an action sequence, but
and the Death That Came to Sarnath is they have like the raid scene,
and even that's kind of handled fumblingly.
Kind of implied.
Yeah, it's more implied. And the same, I was just gonna say, From Beyond is also kind of like told after the fact, because it's like
because they just say like that it's implied that he got the gun and shot the machine. He said basically because there was no bullet holes in the man. It was
they tell us later from like context clues. It's like, okay, well here's the
I like that. I like that a lot. This one, it seems like he had it done. Yeah, he didn't want to do the death ending, so he went back and he put in the part of staring at the house burnt. And he's like, this is clever. Yeah, and then after that he was like, here's how I'll end it.
Yeah, no, I mean it works, but I just think it's like there's just a little. It slips a little. It stumbles a little at the end. That's my only.
I get it.
And if you remove that and put it at the very end, the last clincher wouldn't have had that impact.
It reminds me of I think it was it The Neighbors? It's a story from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, where they're on the trip. They need somewhere to stay. They stay with this old couple. They leave money on the table, and then when they leave, they forget their car keys or something, or they forget something. So like, I gotta come back. And they come back, and the house is a ruin, but the money is there.
Yeah.
It's
There's another one. It's like a cocktail party.
Yeah.
And when they go back, it's just like a burn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's in that vein. I think it is. Like it's they're kind of hinting at like, you could totally go for
so
it's this guy.
You're thinking maybe the house wasn't there at all? Like it was just he was having this like ghost house experience?
Maybe. I mean, this is weird fiction, right? So you're left with a heaping helping.
But this might have been.
I dismissed that line completely.
Which?
I just thought he was sitting there shitting himself, thinking how great would it be if this lightning just blew everything to smithereens.
But it's there. The rapidly increasing storm amidst whose fury I was presently to open my eyes on a smoky solitude of blackened ruins. It's there.
But this could have been maybe him sharing the story with one of his friends, because he was getting all the criticism from the papers that he's submitting these to, and they're probably like, we don't like this. Everyone's dying shit.
It's possible. I mean, this is an amateur journal. He wouldn't have to worry about that at all. Okay.
Because we talked about before, and the Josh man was telling us that like a lot of people were like, we don't, like it's too grim.
Speaking of the Josh man, that's what he says. I mean, that's what happens. That he kind of does it in this weird way, but that is what happens. The bolt of lightning hits the house, destroys the house, and there he is standing in front of it, this smoldering ruin. Yeah, and it's like, okay. So, like I said, the way that he decided to order it kind of is a little confusing.
But could it also be that supernaturally the bolt of lightning was some other kind of entity that
why not
saved him?
That crossed my mind, because I hate that mechanism so much, and I was like, well, Puritans, and like was God finally catching up with like this
creature,
this man's sins, and you weren't a part of it, you were just witness to it, so blammo. Like, and again, it mentions that the storms are out of season, but like,
Well, see, I wanted to kind of go there, but I didn't also because I don't know where he goes with God, and I don't know, I don't.
He's an atheist.
He's
Okay, but in the same breath, does he ever incorporate that in any of the stories? Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to go to the God angle, because of course you get justice from on high with the cleansing lightning, the idea of that.
Right.
But I didn't want to go there. I wanted to go entity, something other than.
Well, I think, and I think that's a natural path to go down because Poe using it. Poe's not an atheist, so him having a
he was
cleansing
just an alcoholic.
Oh yeah, just a little.
Yeah.
But Lovecraft is putting it in there in a way where he's emulating his the master of the macabre, Poe.
Right.
And I think he wanted to use that literary device, but I think he's such an atheist that he's like, I can't have God showing up.
Yeah.
So is this,
It's just like
it's like he put
storm.
it in there.
It's a force of nature.
It's almost like nature kind of correct. This guy is so unnatural and so outside the bounds of nature that nature corrected it.
And nature corrected it was so powerful it blew him out of the house, and he wakes up and he's like, oh,
sick.
Yeah, cool. I'm saved by Mother Nature came.
The ending should have been my bike, and then cut to black.
I'm not getting my deposit back.
Right.
Deposit back.
If August Derleth had gotten his dumb fucking fingers on this story, it would have been God.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah, it would have. We'll get to that later. After Lovecraft dies, his friends come together and they form Arkham House Publishing to get his work out there to the public.
Sick.
And the guy who spearheaded it was a guy named August Derleth. Kind of a problem for a bunch of reasons. A, he started to insert this Christianity into Lovecraft stuff, which Lovecraft couldn't be more opposed to.
Completely missing the mark.
It's missing the point of what his creatures. It's about us living in an uncaring universe. So to put this stuff in there completely. That's who Derleth is. He also, he did help to get Lovecraft stuff out there, but he also stunted a lot of things too because he claimed, which was in error, that he held all the publishing rights to Lovecraft stuff. Early in the 80s when. Early 80s.
70s.
Was it 70s?
70s, Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons came out, and they wanted to add, so they had all their fantasy things in there, and all these. They wanted to add the Cthulhu mythos into
and
it.
deep ones.
Yeah, part of the Cthulhu mythos. So, and they went to do it. They had it published. There were things in the book, and Derleth comes along. He's like, can't do that. I'm going to sue you guys. But he had no right to do it. Right. So if he didn't do that, the Lovecraft stuff could have been out in the public way more than it is now.
He's gatekeeping for his own gains.
Yes, and he also took
Tale
these.
as old as time.
Yeah, and then he got he got Lovecraft's what's called a commonplace book. It was all his notes.
Okay.
Lovecraft, fragments of stories, just ideas that he had, just notes. And he took those, and he was like, oh, here's a story that Lovecraft had. Okay, fine. And then he would finish it, and this was a collaboration. Posthumous collaboration.
Heavy air quotes.
And they're terrible.
It's a total Tupac situation going on,
Yeah, there's a holographic Lovecraft. This is my story. so, yeah. Can we get a holographic Lovecraft?
I would love that. That'd be great.
Skeet, fellow Puritans.
10 points, Gryffindor. So for this episode,
there's a little peek behind what happened, and because of that, people do give him the credit. They're like, okay, he did start Arkham House. He did help get Lovecraft out there, but because he was a gatekeeper for it, other people couldn't come in because Lovecraft was in the public domain, which he is today. And because he's in the public domain, anyone can use it. And if he would have not been such a dick about it, everyone could have been, that would have been part of Dungeons and Dragons. Every nerd on planet Earth would know, not that they don't now, but would have been spreading that stuff since the 70s.
Yeah. Well.
So, and Lovecraft could have been part of the Satanic Panic. We missed it. So So
you guys seem so bummed about
it is. It's like, why did they condemn Cthulhu too?
Yeah.
Sorry. So
that's fine.
So that's where that's what happened with that. So the picture in the house. Here we are. We finished the story.
Yes.
Tell me your thoughts. Just whole cloth.
Yeah. So off the bat, like I said, guy's a little stuffy. Mm-hmm. He's an academic mind. He's doing research, and I get that. I get that this guy's supposed to be kind of stuffy. He's from he's a little frilly
from Puritan stock.
Yeah, right. And his stock is what kept him from screaming later and everything. And he goes, if you're gonna go into an abandoned house, expect it to be a little icky, bro. Like like it's gonna be a little gross, and like his whole like, this is unkept. It's like, yeah, dude, yeah. But it's raining, and you don't want to get your shoes wet.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go in there.
Yeah.
I love the obsession with the book, the cannibal. I love that like breakdown of like just him.
Yeah.
And he's like, can you read some of this to me?
Yeah.
He knows what's in the book.
He does, but like it's him saying the words brings it even more.
Exactly.
To life.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's getting this next guy. It's like, I can't read it. Like, can you? And he's doing. He's like.
Yeah.
He's like rubbing his thighs together, like
just rocking.
He's like, oh my god, I'm gonna eat you. Oh my god, I'm gonna eat you. Oh my god, I'm gonna eat you.
Yeah.
Like, and no, I love that. And I guess like we said, the lightning saving him.
Yeah.
It's a cheap device to get you out, to get this guy out of danger.
Yeah.
But in a way, I kind of feel like the way it was written, it was like that dude could have just ran. The other guy wouldn't have caught him.
Yeah,
he was already in his way, and he already knew he messed up.
Yeah.
So I'm almost at the point where it's like, this guy could have got out of here. He could have grabbed his Huffy and bounced.
He could have. Oh, you thought it was a Huffy? I was going BMX. Sick jumps on those back roads.
He's not doing 6 jumps. This guy's wearing, this guy's like wearing like one of those like.
So he's not pulling like Matt Hoffman moves on the back roads.
This guy's does got a harrow. He's not hitting the ramps. Right. No,
it is not the X Games.
No, it might have been a Schwinn. I'll give him a Schwinn. How about that?
All right.
But no, he like I think he could have got out of there.
Big heavy beach cruiser.
Yeah, that's
sick. But I just feel like the danger was present.
A penny farthing. That's what he's riding.
Okay.
Aruga.
The big one wheel and the little wheel in the back.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That wouldn't have made it through the door. But no, I get that, like, it's like, okay, this guy doesn't seem like he's like agile quick. It's not like it gave me these powers. It just seems like it's sustaining his life. So I feel like he realized homie's almost out the door, and that's why he's like trying to convince him, wait, no, stay a little bit, because they even kind of like say that he's like kind of like, he's not like, and he doesn't look athletic. This guy isn't going to run any marathons. I feel like old study boy is going to get the drop on him and be able to get out of there.
Yeah, possibly.
So I mean, and if he doesn't, like the whole like, oh, it saved my sanity.
Yeah.
I think that is what at the end it was just him never encountering something like that, and him fathoming the wildness of a cannibal that's been along so long.
Yeah.
That's what had him frozen.
Right.
That's what McConnell did.
You know what probably backs it up too? That's why he added the bike thing. He was fit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's
he
what
was
I'm
in
saying.
good shape. He
Exactly.
was able to get the fuck out of there.
He's going over the ride and everything. It's not an even ride. Like, you got to have some strength to pedal over those terrains. Yeah. I just think that literally the end of it all is the fact that he was frozen with this thing that he's never been confronted by.
Yeah.
So he was just like, and it saved my sanity. Meaning like, oh God, it's dead. Okay, I don't have to think about that anymore because it's gone.
Right.
Like, he was stuck.
Beautiful. So you like this one?
I do like this one a lot. Like I said, there was a couple parts where I was kind of like, wait, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
But the second read buttoned it up nicely, and I get it.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with Sam with like the lightning is like, I just think it was his way of like being able to get the guy out of there.
Right.
Because in many ways, I think the narrator was him.
Right.
Again, just looking for this knowledge, and it was like, I'll save you, me.
Gotcha.
I'll save you, me.
There it is. So, any final thoughts on the story, Sam?
No, I just across the board really love it. Again, except for that ending.
Right.
And yeah, no, it's very cinematic to me.
Yes, absolutely.
That turn at the end, like, sometimes those italicized little gotcha moments are, a little limp. But with this one, I think it's incredible. I just following both their eyes in my head. It's still gives you the shivers.
Right, you see the room, like you see like the ancient floor above them where he just was at, and like you see all that, and you're like, oh, there's a torn apart body up there. And it's,
and like I don't know if you've ever been in proximity to a rotting corpse. I was for a straight month, and like my brain went right back to him saying the comment about the odor.
Right.
And like I just smelled that smell in the Arts Tower again, and I was like, yep, that's what that fucking place smells like.
So now you're gonna have to hit us with the abridged version of that story.
There was just a very weird smell in my apartment for an entire month, and I'll skip the ghost part, but at the end of the month, they found my neighbor stewing in his bathtub. But it starts out a little perfumey, and then it hits you with some wet dog, and then rotting hamburger. And my grandfather, who was a World War II parachuting medic, after I told him that story, he gripped my leg and goes, "You'll never forget that smell." I haven't.
I love that story. That had everything. He gave you the hint of ghost, and then you got the World War II vet. Like, you know, that's...
Yeah, we got 5-star Sam today.
Yeah, 5-star Sam's here.
Hear that, Nicole? 5-star Sam.
All right, wonderful. Well, there's been a lot of commentary on this story by many folks who have gone through it and commented on it. Colin Wilson called the story a nearly convincing sketch of sadism. In a 1986 discussion of Lovecraft's work, Joanna Russ dismissed the picture in the house as one of the flatter stories. I disagree wholeheartedly. Peter Cannon, who is author of most of the books I use.
She was probably a fan of Lord Dunsany.
Probably. Considers the story rooted in authentic Puritan psychohistory and regards the climax with the blood dripping from the ceiling above as demonstrating a, quote, finesse unknown to present-day horror writers who delight in graphic violence. So I think that's,
Yeah.
I think that's, it's got something for everybody, even if it does have a stumbling point, and some people don't see it as a stumbling point. Maybe just me. But
It's a complete meal.
yeah, no, nice, nice.
A morsel, if you will.
So, as we kind of started in one of the previous episodes, we like to give our what would be your dream casting for the story? I think we were going to call it Casting from the Dreamlands.
Yeah. This segment, a new segment.
Yeah.
Casting from the Dreamlands.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Sam Heimer. No. You guys start off, because honestly, mine has changed because I thought about the build of the crazy cannibal
All right.
man.
Well, we'll defer to our guest.
Yeah.
So, for the old man, I was thinking John Hurt, if he wasn't dead. Especially if you've seen him in The Proposition as that crazy, bounty hunter prospector. Perfect. And Terrence Stamp, I just the face, how he speaks, with that shock of hair and that ripped clothing, I think he'd be perfect.
Yeah.
And for the narrator, I would just want someone twitchy. I think a younger Alan Cumming would be perfect.
Not Hugh Grant?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
So for my guy, I mean it's it's a little comedic, but I immediately thought of the South Bend shovel slayer himself, Old Man Marley from Home Alone, because he's got that look down and he's good at talking to kids, who is just essentially who the narrator kind of was.
Right.
And so I guess I'm gonna go ahead and dreamcast it. So if that's the killer, old man cannibal guy, I want modern day Macaulay Culkin as the
Oh, get out of here.
Oh yeah. On the bike.
So for my...
He hated that.
Terrible.
I said comedic.
Yeah. My narrator and the dude, the bike rider here, two different voices, but both Val Kilmer.
Okay.
Right? And then...
That's no voice now.
I'm your Huckleberry.
In the arms of
Go ahead, come on.
And for the cannibal, his stature isn't right.
Okay.
But if you could do some forced perspective, the guy from the Green Mile with the French dude.
Oh,
the
Del?
janky, the Mr. Good, like his whole and his creepy, the way he gets janky and starts talking
he's
about
also
stuff.
passed, yeah.
Yeah, he's also passed too.
He was he was Mr. Noodle on Sesame Street?
Sure.
Right?
I never watched Sesame Street.
Mr. Noodle.
I didn't watch. But
Yeah.
his whole thing,
Yeah.
his whole
Green Mile?
creep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was Mr. Noodle.
That's correct.
Yeah, but
We have
that's,
ghosts that help me out
Yeah,
in the
right.
basement.
Jay is a necromancer, as we know.
So yeah, yours would be if directed by Robert Gordon.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I go with that. Or if we resurrected what's his name? Mr. 80s.
Yeah, the guy that did 16 Candles and all that.
Why can't I think of his name?
I can't either right now, and I know it.
That's horrible.
Uncle Buck.
Yeah.
Directed Uncle
What's
Buck.
his name?
John Hughes.
Yes,
There it is. If Macaulay Culkin made a run to get out of the house, it would be to the Benny Hill theme song.
Yeah. We don't have a cat.
Well, that was our new segment.
I mean, the girl who played Shanice could have played the old man, too. She's terrifying. I'm sorry.
Whatever, Jay, you're laissez compétent.
That's what the French call it.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, I think that's all that's fit to print on the picture in the house. Sam, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Sam Heimer!
Anything you'd like to plug? New releases, appearances, crimes you're planning on committing?
No. Well, you and me will be at, well, I guess all three of us will be at Market of the Macabre.
I'll be recording ghost stories, that's all.
Yeah, no, at Laurel Hill Cemetery. It is not to be missed. It is one of my favorite events all year. I think that's September 9th. And then this coming weekend, this probably won't even air, so cut.
It'll be up Friday.
Yeah?
It'll be up Friday.
No, and if you happen to find yourself in New England, New Haven, Connecticut, I will be tabling at Abomination Brewing's Rare Fog Day. So come get drunk, say hi.
All right. And where can we find you?
And if you want, Sam, we can drop this on Thursday to get that out.
Ooh, that'd be sexy.
Okay, yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah. Okay.
But you can find me at Sam_Heimer, Heimer, on Instagram, or at www.samheimer.com.
Beautiful.
Sam Heimer, as mentioned on Scared to Death podcast, for doing work with them.
Fuck you.
All right, guys. Well, for this episode of Learning Lovecraft, I've been Jason McKittrick.
And I've been Ken James.
And I'm Sam Heimer.
And we'll see you beyond the Wall of Sleep.